If a stranger can hurt you with just one sentence, then who is really in control of your life? Most of us don't realize that it is our own reaction to the world that determines our inner freedom. This video will guide you into the journey of mastering your emotions, so no one will ever be able to manipulate or shake you again. Why do people crave your reaction so badly? And what would happen if you refuse to give them what they want? When you stop reacting, you not only retain your power, but also become untouchable. Let's uncover the strength in silence, self-control, and the art of walking alone where no one can hurt you anymore. Have you ever felt like your life was being controlled by just a look, a word, or a small action from someone else? As if you're living while someone else is holding the strings? Just one careless comment can leave you dwelling for hours. A simple rejection can be enough to shatter your confidence. And sometimes, one small criticism can make you question your entire worth. Why does this happen? Because you've given too much power away. You've allowed the external world to dominate your inner world. You've handed someone else the authority to decide how you feel. But the truth is, no one can hurt you emotionally unless you allow them to. No one can steal your peace unless you open the door and let them in. We suffer not because of what others say or do, but because of how we choose to respond to it. And that leads us to the first lesson in becoming untouchable. Your emotions belong to you. No one else has the right to own or control them. Once you truly understand this, your mindset starts to shift. And when your mindset shifts, your entire perspective changes. The moment you stop seeking validation from others is the moment you begin to feel truly free. The moment you stop letting outside influences dictate your emotional state is the moment you discover something deeply valuable. Real freedom. Unfortunately, most people don't live from a place of ownership. They live from a place of reaction. They are like leaves in a heavy wind, swaying whichever way the wind blows. One comment from someone else can completely throw them off. One cold glance is enough to make them question their worth. One act of indifference makes them feel meaningless. But those who are truly untouchable don't live like that. They don't react impulsively. They choose how to respond. They don't absorb negativity, they observe it, like someone watching rain fall outside the window. They don't get easily offended, because their confidence isn't built on the shaky ground of someone else's opinion. And because of that, they hold all the power. Have you ever wondered why some people always seem to want to pull you down? Why they constantly criticize you, belittle you, or try to make you feel small and unworthy? It's not because there's something wrong with you. It's not because you're not good enough. It's because they feel insecure within themselves. A person who is at peace does not seek to hurt others. A confident person doesn't need to put others down to feel taller. A truly strong person doesn't need to control others to feel valuable. Always remember this: people can only hurt you when they themselves are operating from a place of weakness. They seek to control because they cannot control themselves. And when you realize this, their words lose their meaning. Their actions lose their grip. You begin to see the truth, and that truth sets you free. You realize they are not strong. They are not superior. They are not in control of anything. They're just desperately trying to provoke a reaction from you. And when you refuse to give it, when you stay calm, when you walk away in peace, you win every time. Emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming cold or heartless. It doesn't mean shutting down your emotions. It is the ability to know where to invest your energy and where not to. It's a form of maturity, a clear-sighted awareness that most of the things you once thought were important actually are not worth your attention. Imagine yourself as a king sitting on a throne. Would he get angry every time someone gossips behind his back? No. He knows where his power lies. He knows what his energy should be devoted to. And above all, he understands that not every noise deserves his attention. You should be the same. Learn to guard your mind like a precious fortress. Do not hand over your emotions to those who are unworthy. Do not let just anyone walk through the gates of your inner world. Some things are meant to be carried away by the wind, and some are meant to be held like treasures. When you understand those boundaries, you'll walk through life with an inner peace that no external force can shake. You will no longer let shallow words or petty behavior affect your sense of worth. So from this moment on, make a promise to yourself. From today forward, you will not allow any external influence to control your emotions. The next time someone insults you, take a deep breath, smile, and walk away as if you never heard it. If someone disrespects you, remember you don't have to react to prove your value. And if someone tries to drag you down, remind yourself that it's not about you. It's about them. It's about the darkness inside them, not the light within you. The stronger your mental foundation becomes, the less influence they will have on you. And that is the foundation of becoming untouchable. Not invincible, not perfect, but clear-minded enough to never give your power to the undeserving. In the next part, we'll go deeper into an essential question. Why do others crave so badly to control you? And how can you break free from their grip completely, decisively, and with true freedom? We've just touched on the truth that those who try to bring you down often come from a place of inner weakness. They are not stronger than you. They are not better than you. They are simply insecure to the point that they must make others feel small just to feel less empty inside. And here's the danger. If you don't recognize that, you can easily fall into their trap. You see, when someone tries to insult you, provoke a reaction, or make you feel uneasy, they are not displaying power. On the contrary, they are exposing their weakness. A truly confident person has no need to prove anything by demeaning others. A truly strong person has no need to control anyone in order to feel valuable. Only those who feel hollow on the inside are desperate to dominate others as a way to fill the emptiness. And what they want, more than anything, is a reaction from you. They want to see you angry. They want to see you hurt. They want to see you doubting yourself. Because if they can make you react, they believe they have influence, that they have power over your emotions. But here is what you need to remember above all. They only win if you allow them to. The psychology behind manipulation often doesn't stem from hatred. Most people who attack you don't actually hate you. They simply want something from you. An emotion, a reaction, a hint of surrender. The critic wants to feel smarter. The bully wants to feel stronger. The manipulator wants to feel like they can bend you to their will. And all of that, strangely enough, has nothing to do with you. It is about them, their fears, their insecurities, their desperate hunger to feel important. Once you see this clearly, their words suddenly lose weight. You no longer take their insults personally. You no longer feel the need to argue or defend yourself. Because you now see the whole game for what it is. A weak attempt to gain control. A game you no longer wish to play. So how do you truly break free from their influence? The answer is actually very simple. Stop feeding them your energy. Do not participate in the game they are trying to set up. They want to see you angry? Don't give them that. They want you to feel offended? Stay calm. They try to push you to lose control? Stay grounded. The moment you stop reacting, they lose all power over you. Imagine a life where nothing can disturb your inner peace. A life where insults no longer shake your confidence, rejection no longer crushes your spirit, and negative comments no longer make you doubt yourself. That is emotional independence. It is the ability to control your inner world, regardless of what is happening on the outside. Unfortunately, most people don't live that way. They live dependent on their emotions and let others decide how they should feel. A compliment can lift them to the clouds, but a single criticism is enough to drag them to the ground. They become prisoners of validation, as if their self-worth must be signed off by someone else. But here's a hard truth to accept. If someone else can control your emotions, then you are no longer the owner of yourself. They own you, and you don't even realize it. True power only emerges when you detach your emotions from external factors. When you stop living like a puppet pulled by other people's opinions. When you no longer react instinctively to negativity. When you no longer need someone's approval to feel valuable. That is when you reclaim control. And why does emotional dependency make you so weak? Think about it this way. If your happiness depends on others treating you well, what happens when they don't? If your confidence depends on being praised, what happens when they ignore you? And if your peace relies on the belief that the world is always fair, how will you survive when injustice happens every single day? The truth is, the world is not always fair. People are not always kind. And if you tie your emotions to a world that constantly changes, you will live in an endless battle. Those who are emotionally weak suffer more because they expect too much. They hope for respect. They expect fairness. They long for kindness. But life does not always meet those expectations. And when those hopes are broken, they collapse like a sandcastle facing a crashing wave. Meanwhile, emotionally independent people are different. They don't expect. They don't demand others treat them a certain way, and because of that, they're not hurt by anything. So how do you build that kind of emotional independence? Start by stopping the search for validation. If you truly understand your worth, you don't need anyone to confirm it. Detach yourself from judgments. Other people's words reflect who they are, not who you are. Practice controlling your reactions. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you're reclaiming a piece of your power. And finally, accept reality as it is. Life owes you nothing, and that is actually a good thing. Because when you no longer rely on others to feel strong, confident, or worthy, you truly become untouchable. No one can shake what they don't hold. And from that moment on, your emotions are no longer tools in someone else's hands. They are yours, and yours alone. So if your emotions are no longer manipulated from the outside, then what else can truly get to you? This is how you keep emotional control so that no one can manipulate your inner world. But there's still something even more subtle that traps many people in an invisible cage without them even realizing. That is the craving for approval. Have you ever hesitated to speak your true thoughts? Held back from pursuing your passion just because you feared what others might think? Swallowed your truth just to keep the peace? Many people live like this every day. Not because they lack the ability, but because they fear rejection, they fear judgment, they fear the disapproving look. That fear forces them to live according to other people's expectations. They adjust their emotions, behavior, and dreams just to fit into society's mold. And in doing so, they lose autonomy, they lose their inner voice, and most importantly, they lose themselves. The truth is, the more you crave approval, the easier it is to be controlled. Because you are placing the power to determine your value in someone else's hands. And the saddest part is they don't even have to do anything. As long as you keep waiting for someone's nod of approval, you will always be passive in your own life. And here's the truth that may be hard to accept. Seeking approval makes you weak. It traps you in a cycle of dependence. It makes you vulnerable to careless words. And worst of all, it makes you betray yourself just to be liked. Why do we fall into this trap? The answer lies in how the human brain was wired thousands of years ago. Back in tribal times, rejection meant death. Being cast out of the group meant no food, no protection, no chance of survival. So the fear of rejection became deeply embedded in our instincts, but today the world is different. You don't need anyone's permission to survive. You don't need someone's agreement to have the right to be yourself. And yet most people still act as if they're living in an ancient tribe, where someone else's gaze can decide their fate. Because of the fear of judgment, they stay silent when they should speak. Because of the fear of being misunderstood, they choose to live a lie instead of living their truth. Because of the fear of being judged, they sacrifice their dreams just to stay comfortable. And one day they look back at their lives and realize they've been living for everyone else but themselves. So how do you escape that trap? How do you stop needing approval? Start with a simple truth. Not everyone will like you, and that's perfectly fine. Trying to please everyone is a game that has no end. No one has ever won that game. Every time you apologize for being yourself, you're sending a message that says, I'm not good enough. But you are more than good enough, in your own way. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being who you are. You don't need approval to speak your truth. Standing up for your values is not arrogance, it's courage. And courage often comes with loneliness at first, but it will always lead you to freedom. Ask yourself a simple question. If no one judged me, if no one cared what I did, how would I live? That answer is the life you are meant to live. When you stop living to please others, you'll find yourself feeling lighter, more confident, and especially no longer easily controlled by the outside world. Why do people try so hard to provoke you? Because your reaction is their reward. They insult you, you get angry. They belittle you, you become insecure. They push you into a corner, and if you shrink back, they feel powerful. The moment you react in the way they expect, you've unknowingly confirmed that your emotions are in their hands. But something powerful happens when you choose not to react, when you choose silence. When you refuse to get pulled into their drama, you take back full control. Why does reacting make you weaker? Because it is an unconscious act. Most people live in reflex mode. Someone criticizes them, and they instantly defend themselves. Someone ignores them, and they immediately feel hurt. Someone insults them, and they lose their composure. But when you react on instinct, you are no longer in control. You've handed the emotional remote to someone else. True strength comes from the pause, from a deep breath, from the moment you stop to think rather than react. When someone tries to provoke you, give yourself a few seconds to remember this. They are not looking for reason, they are looking for a reaction. And you don't owe them that. Separate yourself from the emotion. Their words do not define you, their opinions are not your reality. And sometimes, the strongest response is no response at all. Silence is a form of power few know how to use. It confuses the manipulator. It strips the aggressor of their sense of control. When you don't react, you don't give away your energy. You keep your peace. You preserve your dignity. You maintain your power. Imagine this. Someone insults you, and you simply smile. Someone criticizes you, but you remain composed. Someone tries to control you, and you choose to walk away. No arguing, no explaining, no reacting. In that moment, you have already won. No applause needed, no validation required, because that victory is the freedom within you. The most powerful voice in your life does not come from the outside, it comes from within. It's how you talk to yourself. It's what you repeat every day. It's that quiet voice whispering to you every time you face a decision, a doubt, or a fear. And sadly, most people let that voice turn against them. They replay the insults they once heard. They let judgments from the past become the truth of the present. They feed their fears with their own thoughts. And then, they lock themselves in a prison they built with their mind. But the truth is this: if you don't take charge of your inner dialogue, someone else always will. And they'll never tell you that you're strong, that you're enough, or that you're worthy. They'll only feed your doubts, fuel your fears, and keep you living within their limits. So how do you break free? How do you reclaim ownership of that inner conversation? We've already uncovered the truth that no one can hurt you unless you let them. And now, we're going deeper into something even more powerful, the starting point of every emotion, every reaction, and every decision: your mind. Why do thoughts have the power to shape reality? Because your brain believes what you tell it. If you keep repeating in your mind, "I'm not good enough," "I'll never succeed," or "no one truly respects me," eventually your brain will accept those thoughts as truth. It doesn't distinguish between assumptions and reality. It simply responds to what you feed it. And once those negative beliefs take root, they begin to control everything. From your confidence to your actions, even the way you perceive life itself. Every step you take, every word you speak is filtered through the gloomy lens of doubt and fear. But the good news is this: the opposite is also true. When you begin to feed your mind with strength, with positive and confident thoughts filled with self-love, everything starts to change. You no longer crave validation from others. You no longer doubt yourself every time you fail. You no longer allow others' negative words to take root in your heart. So how do you reprogram your mind? The answer is simple, but it requires persistence. Every time a negative thought arises, you must catch it immediately. Don't let it grow. Don't let it take root. Don't tell yourself, "Maybe it's true. Maybe I really am worthless," and then allow it to multiply. Stop it and replace it with strength. For example, instead of thinking, "I can't take this anymore," replace it with, "I'm in control of this situation." Instead of asking, "What if they don't like me?" affirm to yourself, "Their opinion doesn't define my worth." These statements are not just temporary reassurances. They are your way of restoring order in your mind. And just like training a muscle, your brain needs daily repetition. Every time you repeat a positive thought, you are building a stronger belief system. Detach yourself from the voice of fear. Not every thought deserves to be heard. Some thoughts exist only to destroy you. Treat them like garbage and throw them out without hesitation. Did you know? When you build a solid inner world, no insult can reach you. No rejection can break you. No challenge can shake you. Because true strength doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from having a mind that is clear enough not to be controlled by it. And then when you take control of your inner dialogue, you take control of your destiny. You no longer chase the noise of the outside world. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. You know when to fight and when to walk away. Because the truth is, not every battle is worth it. Not everyone deserves your energy. There are arguments, attacks, and situations where walking away is the clearest display of strength. Most people don't see that. They throw themselves into endless battles, never-ending debates, exhausting explanations, and in the end, there's nothing left but fatigue and disappointment. But you are different. You know that walking away is not defeat. Walking away is a declaration. I don't need to prove myself to anyone. Walking away is a confirmation that you are in control of your emotions, that you refuse to get dragged into meaningless drama, that your energy is worth far more than petty arguments and unnecessary conflict. Why is walking away so powerful? Because most people stay out of ego. They want to win. They want to be understood. They want to prove they're right. But they don't realize that this very need puts them in a position of weakness. The one who argues all day is controlled by emotions. The one who is easily offended is letting others control their mood. The one who always wants the last word is led by ego. But the one who knows how to quietly walk away, that person is untouchable. So how do you master the art of walking away? Pay attention to your energy. When you sense it's being drained for no good reason, step back. Ask yourself, will this still matter a week from now, a year from now? If the answer is no, then walk away. You don't have to be right. You don't have to win. You don't need to prove anything. True value isn't found in arguments. It's found in the peace you protect within. Use silence as a weapon. Nothing throws off an aggressor faster than your silence. No reaction, no explanation, no confrontation, just walk away. And when you do that, you strip them of all their power. Choose peace over chaos. Choose inner stability over impulsive emotion. Only invest your time in what elevates you, not in what drags you down. You will encounter people who are waiting to pull you into their chaos. Meaningless arguments, disguised insults, situations created just to make you lose control. But you don't have to play alone, because when you walk away with calm, grace, and indifference, you are always the one who wins. No one can manipulate someone who refuses to play by their rules. Here's something interesting. Most people are predictable. When they get angry, they strike back. When they're ignored, they chase. When they're pressured, they collapse. These reactions become patterns, and that makes them easy to control. But you choose to be unpredictable. When you become unpredictable, you also become untouchable. No one can manipulate you. No one can read your next move. No one can control what they don't understand. Why is predictability a weakness? Because the weak are easy to read. When others know you need praise to feel good, they'll use compliments to control you. When they know you can't handle rejection, they'll use silence to manipulate you. When they see you always react emotionally, they'll keep pressing that button again and again. But when you change your pattern, you take back full control. When someone insults you and you smile. When they criticize you and you remain silent. When they try to drag you into the same old game but you refuse to enter, they become confused. They no longer know who you are. And in that very moment, they lose all power over you. You've come to understand this truth. People can only manipulate you when you react exactly as they expect. So if you always respond instinctively, you are handing over control of your emotions to others. Think about it. If you always stand up to defend yourself, people will keep attacking. If you always try to explain, they will continue to doubt you. If you keep reacting emotionally, they will keep pressing that same weak spot every time they want to manipulate you. But what happens if you change the game? Try something different. When someone insults you, smile instead of getting angry. When questioned, resist the urge to justify yourself. Stay silent. Let them be confused. Because when you remain calm at the very moment they expect an explosion, you take away all the power they thought they had. That is the art of being unpredictable. The less people know how you'll respond, the less control they have over you. Change the pattern. If you used to explain everything, stop. If you were the one who always held on, now is the time to let go. If you were used to winning every argument, now choose silence with strength. Make them wonder, why aren't you reacting like you normally do? Keep your emotions to yourself. Never let anyone know exactly what hurts you, because once they know, they can use it to control you anytime they want. The fewer people understand how you operate, the more untouchable you become. People are always afraid of what they can't predict. They don't know how to control someone who doesn't follow the familiar script. They can't manipulate someone who doesn't respond in expected ways, and at that point, real power is formed. Because when no one can predict your next move, no one can break you. And when no one can break you, you begin to taste true freedom. So why do people suffer so much? Why can a simple rejection push someone into a pit of emotional despair? Why does an insult or someone's silence shake their sense of peace? Because they cling too tightly. They cling to people, to expectations, to outcomes. And that attachment becomes a weakness. But when you learn to let go, you become unstoppable. You're no longer dependent on approval. You're no longer afraid of loss. You're no longer controlled by things that were never truly yours. Most of us live in fear because of this attachment. Afraid of rejection, we stay silent. Afraid of losing someone, we tolerate disrespect. Afraid of failure, we never dare to begin. But the truth is, it's all an illusion. Nothing is permanent. People can walk away. Opinions can change. Circumstances can flip at any moment. The more tightly you hold on to what you cannot control, the more you weaken yourself. So how do you truly let go? Start by letting go of expectations. Don't expect others to treat you the way you want. Don't expect life to unfold according to the perfect plan you've created in your mind. Accept everything as it is. When you can do that, you'll feel less disappointed and more at peace. Focus on the only thing you truly have control over: your mind, your actions, and your energy. Let everything else move as it naturally will. When you stop resisting reality, you begin to feel free. Don't look at people as the version you wish they were. See them for who they really are. When you do that, you'll feel less hurt. Because pain doesn't come from the truth. It comes from unmet expectations. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It is the strength of seeing things clearly. When your happiness is no longer tied to one specific person, they can no longer hurt you. When your confidence is no longer tied to praise or recognition, you become immune to rejection. When your self-worth is not attached to a single outcome, you create space for 1,000 other possibilities to arise. And when you master the art of letting go, you become resilient. No one and nothing can shake you anymore. Another reason people are easily hurt is because they are too dependent on the external world. They need others to feel worthy. They need society's validation to feel successful. They need a relationship to feel complete. But it is that very dependency that makes them fragile. True strength comes from self-reliance. It's the ability to stand tall on your own, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. When you don't need anyone to feel whole, you begin to become truly undefeatable. Dependency is always an open door to fear. If your happiness depends on someone's love, what happens when they walk away? If your confidence depends on praise, what happens when no one applauds you? If your sense of worth depends on approval, what happens when you're rejected? Dependency breeds fear, and where there is fear, there is control. Those who need nothing from anyone cannot be controlled by anyone. And in the next part, we're going to go deeper into the root of control. How do you recognize the most subtle forms of manipulation? How do you reclaim your power without fighting back? And most importantly, how do you maintain your inner freedom even when the world around you is in chaos? Do you remember what we discussed earlier? That when you stop handing your power to others, you begin to take control of yourself. And there's nothing more valuable than owning your emotions, your words, and your inner freedom. So now the question is, how do you truly become self-reliant? First, start from within. Develop emotional independence. Because if you always need someone else to make you happy, that also means you're giving them the power to make you sad. If your joy depends on a compliment or validation, you'll fall apart with a single moment of neglect or rejection. Instead of chasing approval and attention, turn inward. Find joy in inner peace and in the small daily things you can actually control. Next, build financial strength. Maybe money can't buy happiness, but it can buy freedom. Freedom from doing what you don't want to do. freedom from bowing down to people who don't deserve your respect. When you have a solid financial foundation, you have a voice. And when you don't depend on anyone, you can say no without fear. Invest in your skills. Training is the pathway to becoming independent in every situation. The more capable you are, the less you need to rely on the world. The more skills you possess, the more options you have. And someone with many options is never stuck. They walk away because they want to, not because they have to. Be your own source of validation. Even when no one stands and applauds for you, you must be the one to rise, smile, and say, I am enough. Knowing your worth is the foundation that keeps you steady through both praise and criticism. A tree with deep roots doesn't fall no matter how strong the wind blows. With that mindset, you become unstoppable. Independent people don't beg for attention. They don't have to shout to be heard. Their presence alone is strong enough to be noticed. They don't fear being alone, because solitude is not something to fear, but a chance to grow stronger. They don't need anyone to lift them up to move forward. They choose relationships out of love, not out of neediness. They pursue their dreams with steady feet and a determined heart, no hesitation. No chains from judgment. And when you reach that level, no one can manipulate you, no one can hurt you, no one can block your path, because you've learned to stand firmly on your own, with both your will and your ability. Emotions are a powerful thing. If you master them, they will take you to great heights. But if you let them control you, they will drag you into deep valleys. Most people don't realize this. They let emotions lead the way. They get angry and say things they later regret. They are afraid and trap themselves in their comfort zones. They get hurt and refuse to move forward. But there comes a moment when you realize that if you truly want freedom, you must take control of your emotions. And when you do that, you'll find that no one can provoke you anymore. You don't fall apart so easily. You're no longer a hostage to fear, guilt, or anger. You're the one in the driver's seat. You choose what to think, how to feel, and how to respond. Because every time you react without thinking, you give your power away. When someone provokes you and you lose your temper, they win. When someone insults you and you feel hurt, they win. When someone ignores you and you start craving their attention, they win again. Every emotional reaction is like a button. And if someone can push that button and control you, then are you really still yourself? So how do you master your emotions? It's simple. Pause. Before you speak, take a deep breath. Before you react, give yourself a few seconds to observe. The space between stimulus and response is where your power returns. That's where you choose to respond instead of react. Learn to detach from the trigger. When someone insults you, see them as someone struggling within themselves. When someone gets angry at you, realize they might be dealing with something much bigger than you. And when you can see things this way, you no longer need to respond. You don't need to defend. You don't need to win. You just need to protect your peace. Imagine a different version of yourself. A version where every insult passes through you like the wind. Disrespect no longer touches your self-worth. Manipulative tactics lose their effect. You remain calm, clear-headed, and steady. Every decision you make is no longer driven by impulsive emotions, but comes from understanding, confidence, and inner control. That is the image of someone untouchable. Someone who does not allow others to control them through emotions. Someone who refuses to get swept up in the emotional chaos of the outside world. And then, something interesting begins to happen. You start speaking less. You no longer feel the need to over-explain, to lay out your plans, or to expose your weaknesses. Because you understand that silence is a form of strength. You realize you don't need to win every argument. You don't have to prove anything. You begin to hold on to your power by holding back your words. The stronger a person is, the less they speak. When you are silent, you control the conversation. When you are silent, others are left guessing. When you are silent, you hold your position. And sometimes, that silence earns more respect than 1,000 explanations ever could. This isn't coldness. It's refinement. It's the ability to choose what is worth saying and what should remain unspoken. It's the awareness that not everyone deserves to know what you're thinking. Not everything deserves a response. And not every provocation deserves your reaction. From now on, when someone expects you to get angry, you simply smile. When they wait for your explanation, you remain silent. When they push you to react, you walk away in peace. Your silence creates tension, and that tension becomes a form of invisible power. Have you ever noticed this? In a crowded room, the person who speaks the least is often the one who is heard the most. They don't need to shout to get attention. They don't need to explain themselves to be understood. They only need to show up with unwavering presence, and that presence makes them stand out. So learn to use silence as a weapon not sharp, yet powerful enough to make anyone think twice. And once you've reached this point when emotions can no longer manipulate you, when words no longer control you, you are getting very close to the peak of inner freedom. We've already laid the foundation together. You don't need to react to the world to feel valuable. And once you stop seeking validation from the outside, you begin to enter the realm of true freedom. So what is it that still keeps most people tied to their emotions, still so easily influenced by others? The answer is simple. They care too much. They worry about what others think of them, feel hurt when they're not treated as they expected, and spend far too much energy on things that really don't matter, just to impress, just to prove their worth, just to be accepted. But the moment you master indifference, when you're no longer driven to please others, you become untouchable. No insult can reach your heart. No rejection can shake your spirit. No loss can bring you down. Because you understand that everything outside of you no longer holds power over your inner world. So why does caring too much make you weak? Because when you focus on the wrong things, you're handing over the key to your happiness to someone else. If you live for the approval of others, you'll always be a prisoner of their expectations. If you're afraid of rejection, you'll never dare to move forward. If you let others' actions control your emotions, it becomes easy for them to manipulate you. But when you learn to let go, when you stop caring about things outside your control, that's when you reclaim your power. At that point, you live with unshakable confidence. Not because you're perfect, but because you no longer let others define your worth. So how do you master indifference? First, learn to detach from opinions. What someone thinks of you has nothing to do with you. It's their thought, a mirror reflecting their inner state. Don't seek validation from others. No one has the authority to give you worth except yourself. Learn to accept what you can't control. There will be words, actions, and changes from others that you cannot prevent. Let them happen. Let them pass. And don't let them shape who you are. Focus on what truly matters. Your growth, your inner peace, and the path you choose to walk. Everything else is just noise. When you reach a state of mindful indifference, you will feel true freedom. It's not that you don't feel anything, it's that you no longer let the petty things take control. Negativity no longer holds you back. Small matters no longer drain your precious energy. And ironically, when you stop chasing validation, people start to respect you more. Indifference is not coldness. It is the highest form of strength. It is the ability to walk through fire without being burned, to stand in the storm and not lose yourself. And once you master that, no one can control you again. There is another thing that keeps people trapped in their weakness, the fear of being alone. They cling to toxic relationships. They accept disrespect. They stay with people who don't align with them just to avoid loneliness. But in doing so, they weaken themselves more and more. Because when you need someone else to feel whole, you're admitting you are not strong on your own. In truth, loneliness is not an enemy. It is a gift. A silent weapon that only the brave dare to wield. The strongest people are those who are not afraid of solitude. They use the quiet to build themselves. They train their minds, understand their hearts, and develop independence. And because they need no one can control them. So why do most people struggle to walk alone? Because they fear facing themselves. They're afraid to hear their own thoughts when everything around them goes quiet. They're afraid to confront the empty spaces within. But what they don't realize is that it's in that very silence that strength is formed. When you walk alone, you no longer need anyone to validate your worth. You build respect from within, a self-respect that cannot be eroded. You build a mind that cannot be manipulated. The weak always need a crowd to feel secure. The strong can stand alone without being shaken. So how do you embrace solitude? Start by getting comfortable being alone. Learn to enjoy your own company. Silence is not emptiness. It is power in the making. Detach from the need to have someone by your side. Appreciate others when they are present, but never rely on them to feel whole. Use your alone time as a tool for growth. Read, reflect, write down what you feel. Turn those solitary moments into sessions of self-mastery. Be brave enough to walk your own path, because most people follow the crowd out of fear. But the truly strong are the ones who forge their own road, even if they walk it alone. When you master being alone, you no longer fear solitude. You no longer fear losing anyone. You are no longer controlled by emptiness. You've built yourself to a point where you are complete on your own, and at that moment you become untouchable. Most people go through life just reacting. They react to others, to criticism, to negativity. They are like leaves swept away by the wind of emotion. But strong people are different. They do not react. They choose to respond. They take control of their minds. They live with an inner strength that no one can violate. And that is the essence of being untouchable. It is not about being cold or emotionless. It is the strength to live according to your own way, not swayed by judgment, not clouded by fear, not held back by the unstable emotions of others. So then what does it mean to be untouchable? It is someone who does not beg for approval, who does not tremble in the face of rejection, who does not let emotions dictate actions. It is someone who walks through life with complete control. Insults do not shake them. Manipulation no longer works. Fear no longer holds them back. They have learned to respond instead of react. They know how to let go of what cannot be controlled. They do not waste words on what is pointless. They do not need to explain themselves. And most importantly, they do not rely on anyone to be who they are. They are self-reliant. They are steadfast. They are free. They do not fear solitude. They embrace it. The ultimate reward is absolute freedom. The moment you master yourself, you become free. Free from opinions, free from fear, free from control. No one can manipulate you. No one can break you. No one can make you feel inferior, because you have built a mind immune to weakness. That is the true meaning of being untouchable. Not invincible, not perfect, but fully in control of yourself, your actions, and your destiny. And when you reach that level, the world no longer defines who you are. You do.